Welcome everybody to the Aspen Inside Scoop for 2608. Yeah, as always, we've got a lot of good changes, and as always, I want to thank everybody who has contributed to this release. The list of developers, as always, is listed at the bottom, and we've got quite a few contributors this time. The testing and documentation are going to be filled out as we go. So thanks in advance to everybody working on testing and documentation. There's also a couple of sponsors that I missed. I missed the Community College of Beaver County and Maine Library Consortium. So they are in the next version of the release notes. So thanks everybody for sponsoring developments and working on developments, etc. I'm going to actually switch over to my iPad to talk about the first thing. So first thing we did was start with Aspen LiDA. This is something that we have talked about, and I apologize for how Google Meet looks on the iPad. It can't completely minimize it. But we've been talking about this for, I don't know, 6-9 months in terms of how in the world can we make Aspen LiDA start more quickly. So we're going to start LiDA, and there we go. So this is already logged in, but we can get to all of our accounts. We can get to our checked out titles, and it is basically instant to start up. Yes, it is amazing. We are so excited by this. And thank Minuteman for sponsoring this work. They have done a lot, and CleveNet has sponsored a lot of this work as well. We are very, very, very excited by this. There is also a within preferences and support. So to do this, we're caching data in a database that's stored on the device. Those caches are then listed here where the updates are. So you can force an update. This is mostly going to be for us testing. We don't think anybody will have to do that during normal usage of anything. So yeah, we are very, very excited that as soon as you're logged in, it is essentially instant. So let me stop sharing here. Okay, and we'll go back to LiDA. So other things I want to talk about, obviously that's the big cool thing. We also did some updates to Expo. So Expo SDK 55, we were on 53. We needed to go to at least 54 in order to meet the Android requirements for new developments. So that's all good. We did some fixes for some Gluestack things. There were just a few little styling inconsistencies that we saw and got updated. The other big thing that I wanted to talk about, and again, sponsored by Minuteman, so DIS 2526 is unit testing. So what this is doing is, again, it's starting our investment in unit testing with LiDA. And the idea here is that we can make sure that everything is working consistently as we upgrade things. So this is really good for as we update Expo, as we update Gluestack, as we update all of those underlying technologies. We are just dipping our toes in, but we're going to continue the investment. So we've got the splash screen, the loading screen. There's actually a few more here that we've done. So Kirsten did some unit tests for as we're loading data, making sure that that all is working. So good investment for the future. We're really excited by that. The SQL caching, if you're looking for what JIRA to look at for that, that's DIS 2524. And all of those Gluestack updates were 2704, 2706, 2707, 2708. The other change that we made for LiDA is a little bit buried down here under the API updates, but we're going to opt users into all of the notification channels by default when they opt into notifications within LiDA. And this just prevents users from having to take an extra step. Typically, people think I'm opting in and I should therefore be able to get everything unless I don't want it. All right, so then moving off of LiDA onto Discovery, we've got a lot of good fixes here. There's a lot of stuff that's better to talk about. They're a little hard to demo for some of them, but I'm going to talk through all of them. So DIS 2537, which was sponsored by SWAN. So this is allowing us to set kind of an override status or an edited status. Basically, as people are going through and reconciling, we might find like, hey, this fine from Sarah looks like it didn't go through, but as we're reviewing our, in this case, I think this was a Stripe payment, it actually did come through. So we might actually mark that as, hey, this was actually completed. So it's just a way as we're reconciling to kind of identify what may have changed. We just save that, and then we can see that here, and it will appear on any of the exports. So if you're exporting to CSV, in order to pull it into Excel or something else, you can get that status. Next, we have DIS 26.08, which is an embeddable events calendar. And this is really cool. So if we go into the calendar display settings, so here we can say up top, we've got a new option for embedding the calendar. And if I forgot to say, this is DIS 26.08, sponsored by WYLD, being able to embed calendars. So here we can say this is an embeddable calendar. If we click into embed calendar, then we get additional information and previews similar to what we would get for collection spotlights. So here we can say, this is the size, it goes through, we click into event, then it will actually open Aspen, which is what we want. That's another page of it. So here I put it into a web builder page. So all I did was I created a web builder page. I edited this and said, changed my source type to an iframe and plugged in that iframe info. Probably typically we're not going to be embedding it within Aspen, but as a demo, I just wanted to show it to you. So here's what that page looks like. I haven't added any additional content, but you can see what it looks like. I don't have a ton of events right now, so it's not a very full calendar. We'll have much more full calendars at actual libraries. All right. Next, we have DIS 26.08, which is improving the hold edition pop-up. And this was sponsored by SWAN. So we're going to place a hold here. And part of the feedback was just there was a few things that were a little clunky. So right now we're going to place a hold on the suggested edition. If we click place hold on specific edition, then we get the editions. And we can choose back and forth between those. There were some other issues, just the length of these bars would kind of expand outside the width of the pop-up or the modal and didn't look great. So lots of little tweak improvements there that'll make it easier for patrons to use. Next, we have some indexing updates. I'm going to mostly talk through this. I will probably do another more in-depth demo on this later. It's just it's kind of a lot to go through, and I know we're a little short on time today, so we'll do a supplemental. This is actually 4 different JIRAs, some of which we just did at Grove, and a lot of which is sponsored by Orange County as well. So we did an update to Solr 9. We were previously using Solr 8.10, I believe, 8.10, 8.11, whatever the latest 8 version was. That's been recommended to not be used for a bit now, and we are behind on upgrading to Solr 9. Solr 10 just came out a few months ago, so we may be updating to Solr 10 soon, but definitely more than past our time to get to Solr 9. It definitely has some good improvements in terms of index size, in terms of performance of searching, so we're excited to get onto that. The other thing we did was do some optimizations of the Solr schema. So with Solr 9, we are able to actually change how we do some of the searching, which again, improves performance of searching, minimizes the amount of database space or amount of space it takes on disk and in memory, which is all good things and should result in a lot faster performance. This adds a new grouped work searcher v3. So the next bit of this is being able to apply searches to records instead of works. And that's confusing. What it is allowing us to do is to say, so previously if I did a search for books added in the last 2 weeks, what it was doing was actually looking for any grouped work that had a book and any grouped work that had any format added in the last 2 weeks. So this is now going to search for just books added in the last 2 weeks, which is great. And that's what patrons expect. That's what we expect as libraries. So we're excited by that. So we will be updating everybody to version. So the plan at Grove is when we update your test servers, we're going to update you to we're going to keep you on version 2 for probably 1 index. So tonight's index would still be on version 2. That just lets us kind of compare the indexing speed and the size. And then we will convert you to version 3, probably either Friday or Monday night. After we do that, it causes a complete reindex, and it will switch you to version 3 automatically. That's where you'll be able to see the differences in how things search, and you'll be able to actually switch back and forth between version 2 and version 3. It is important to note version 2 will just be a snapshot of what you had. It won't get updated automatically. So it'll give us a good chance to compare things, make sure everything's working well. And like I said, I'll have a little bit more of a demo for some of that in a little bit. And just to list off all of those JIRAs for anybody who's tracking those, there was DIS 2762 was the upgrade to Solr. DIS 2764 is updating the Solr schema, and DIS 2535 is making that search result stuff make more sense. Next, I'm just going to click back over to release notes so that we can see some of these here. So some indexing updates. A lot of these are coming from catalogers. So DIS 26.08, humor was being classified as fiction, which isn't correct. So it is now no longer doing that. We're looking at the subfield, or looking at the 007, I forget which position, but we're looking for a T in that position to get 4K Blu-rays as those MARC standards have been updated. And then we're also pulling out the trailing punctuation from UPCs, which was causing problems for loading covers. So covers were not being found because there was trailing punctuation in UPCs. Next, we have LocalHop Events. And this is DIS 2653, which was sponsored by Prairie Lakes. So there is a new option to use LocalHop images. And what that looks like is this. So we have the ability now to, with that setting turned on, it will pull in the cover. So in this case, for some of their series, they have posters that they've created that are better than just the individual things. So nice way to kind of see that. You can see what's happening on each of the different days, and that kind of thing. The poster has all of the information. So for people that are doing those complex posters, that's nice to see. Next is probably my favorite development of this cycle. So this is, I'm going to talk about 3 different JIRAs. These were all sponsored by Share. So it's DIS 2622, DIS 2650, and DIS 2651. What we have now is, so within Aspen search settings, there is the ability to control which searches you have active. Let me just apply this everywhere right now. You can apply different ones to different libraries. But here we can say, okay, my community says, I don't understand the difference between a subject search and a keyword search. I'm not going to try to convey that to my people. I'm just going to put that in advanced search only, and then my librarians can use subject searches. We can say local call numbers. Maybe we don't want people to search local call numbers at all. ISBN, same thing. They can be searched in a keyword. Publisher, who needs publishers? Year of publication, maybe. Advanced search, sure. Or maybe we only want that in the facets, because you can search for year of publication by facet. We can also change some of the labels. So this is actually not year of publication. It's the earliest publication date that we own. So you can change those. Searching by record number. We're going to leave that disabled. So by default, everything that was set up in advanced search is still in advanced search, and you can add or subtract as you wish. When we save these, we can see that, yes, those indeed have fewer things. And if you go to advanced search, it will show you additional things there. So we get our earliest publication date. So let's go back to searches. So I think we're going to have a lot of people customizing these. The other thing we did was add and break up between author and authoring contributors. This has been confusing to some patrons. So some people think an author search is giving you all the contributors. So if you do a search for like, it's Jim Dale that, so here if we do a search for Jim Dale as the author, there's a couple of Jim Dales that authored stuff, and apparently this one audiobook is labeled with him and not the not J.K. Rowling. But if we search for contributors, so we only got 4 for the primary author, but if we include contributors, we get 43. So if we want to find everything that he's contributed to it as a narrator, we can kind of see the difference between those. But for your patrons, if you want to make those clear, and you want to prefer one or the other, author and contributors is what we have had previously. So if you don't want just the primary author, or if you want to name that primary author, you can. But we could also just get rid of primary author or just get rid of author and contributors. So the last part of this was the ability to show the result, the value within the results. So in grouped work display settings, under search results, there is now an option to, or under search options, we can say display sort term values. And we'll save that. And now when we refresh our number of holds search, we'll get a list of the number of holds. So that helps us to tell, for patrons that are trying to figure out like, okay, well, I sorted by number of holds, but how many holds is it? We can kind of see it down here, but we wanted it to be obvious for patrons. So total checkouts. Okay, well, this has 341 total checkouts. This one has 262. When was the date purchased? So we can see, okay, well, this one was purchased June 4th, and that one's December 31st. So we can sort by all of those and see them all so that we know how they show up. So good functionality there, I think will help really make search results make sense to patrons. All right, next we have a few more things that I'm just going to talk through. So under series, we have updated as part of DIS 2400 just how the 896 is handled, and basically it's using the subfield A, which is sponsored by SWAN. DIS 26.56, sponsored by Lynx. We had some issues where we were getting duplicate series showing up, or duplicate entries within a single, duplicate entries for a book within a series. And it turns out some of that was just how the volumes were being loaded. So one might be V1 and another Vol1 and another Volume 1, and it was duplicating those. So we updated to normalize those volumes so that Volume 1 is Volume 1, which should help a lot. Also for Lynx, or well, for Lynx and Community College of Beaver County, we did DIS 2250, which is updating how SSO works if you're using OAuth, and more specifically custom OAuth. So for people that are linking into whatever identity provider you have, those are good new options to make things work better. And some additional special stuff there, like being able to set patron type better and that kind of thing. For SWAN, we did DIS 2644 and DIS 2645, which were some more special cases for the Symphony self-check. I think we're narrowing in on having all of them identified, but there's still at least one more we know about. But the Symphony self-check, there's a lot of special cases. Next, we're working on two-factor authentication updates. We've got one that is still in the process of getting merged, so I'm just going to show it to you locally. But we have the ability now for two-factor authentication, being able to connect the two-factor authentication requirement to the role. So, for example, if you're authenticating ILS users through just their ILS login, and you want to say, you know what, our user admins and our OPAC admins and our library admins, you got permission to do stuff. We want to make sure that you have two-factor authentication on, or maybe everybody except the masquerader. So you now have the ability to do that, and then somebody logging in with a role of OPAC admin will have to use their authentication app or an email authentication. So that's sponsored by Nashville. One more that I'll talk about, and then one more that I'll show. So year in review updates. So this is a little one, but we're not displaying the year in review in menus when inactive. So right now we're in a period where year in review is not really updating or anything. There's not really a point to showing the year in review in the menu. So DIS 2441 was sponsored by CLAMS. And then the last thing to show is a combination of two things. So DIS 2654 and DIS 2655, both of these were sponsored by Maine. But the ability to add to a different list. So vegetarian cooking, if we wanted to create a cooking list, then we can create a list. We're going to not add it to a group. We're going to make it public. And then when I go back to my lists, I can see cooking at the library, which has that list. I could add this to another list if I wanted. The other thing that we're doing is making sure to show these, whether they're public or private. Or sorry, you will see all the public ones, but you will not necessarily, it will not necessarily have to be searchable. So if I go back to my lists, and there was one here that's, so if I wanted to, please don't cook dogs, but if we add this to our cooking at the library and go to our lists again, then here at our cooking, I think this might be a Solr 9 thing. So you will see the both public and private ones when you go to look at these. So yeah, those are the big things from 26.08 this time.